So if you made it through part one, you deserve a badge of courage and stamina. So welcome to part two. You may be asking yourself, Darren, why did you pick Chemical Guy's VRP for a tire dressing when in fact they have a dedicated tire dressing that's also oil-based if you really want to go for endurance? Well, I'm trying to simplify both my world and your world. The industry would have you purchase and choose hundreds of different products. I want to simplify it and have you be able to purchase less products. Less equals efficiency, efficiency equals profitability. So that's what I'm trying to relay to you guys. Also with the VRP, because it's water-based, it dries to the touch, it's good for both interior and exterior use. And so really it can be a single use product that it can be your go-to product. Very similar to the hyper dressing. Speaking of which, I am going to do a comparison between hyper dressing and the Chemical Guy's VRP dressing in the direct sun, on the same car, on the same tires. I'm going to show you a few examples in the shade, in the sun, actually on 4 different vehicles. So let's get rolling. Example number one. This is the wheel and tire on my Denali from the first video. It has 2 coats of the Chemical Guy's VRP. I'm trying to highlight the shine that is created. It's a great shine, but it's not over the top shine. Here we have one of our daily drivers. I have just finished using my Optima no rinse to clean this car. I've cleaned the sidewall, I've cleaned the wheel, and I'm going to take my Meguiar's hyper dressing. I've got my sponge that has been pre-dampened and cleaned out. Like I said, I spray directly onto the sponge. There we have our single coat of the Meguiar's hyper dressing. Now I've got my VRP dressing. I've got my applicator that has been pre-dampened with water and cleaned out. Based on that moment, between this applicator, which I think is the critical difference, this definitely is the winning ticket as far as applicator goes. You can see it creates a nice shine. So I'm gonna wait a few minutes and I'm gonna apply a second coat and pull back and show you guys the end result. Here we have the hyper dressing. I have 2 coats. So let me get in different angles and you can see that the hyper dressing does in fact create quite a shine. Over here we have the Chemical Guy's VRP. Once again, based on different angles, it creates quite a shine. Which one is shinier? Well, do you even want shiny? Do you prefer to knock this down for a more subtle satin finish? That's entirely up to you. But what kind of shine can it produce? Like I said at the first video, it largely depends on the tire itself. But the point is that both perform. I've tested the VRP for at least 3 months now. I've been using the hyper dressing for quite a few years now. The winning ticket for me is I'm gonna have to go with the VRP because sling is less of a problem. If you want to choose, or if you have already chosen the hyper dressing, you can control the sling by making sure that you or your worker bee, or whoever is applying the dressing, does not leave any residual dressing built up in the nooks and crannies of the tire sidewall itself. So it's really not a problem if you control the amount, or that you don't put excessive amounts on the sidewall. Let's take a look at my van. Once again, this will not be a direct comparison because I have chosen to put the Chemical Guy's VRP on the front and rear tires, but the front tires are different than the rear. But this, once again, has 2 coats. It has created a nice shine to the sidewall. Unfortunately, the back tire is in the shade, but you can see that it is in fact very shiny. And to me, this is what I personally choose and prefer for the way I like tires to look. Here's a perfect example of some of the issues I was discussing earlier. This happens to be my son's truck. Clearly he has driven through the dirt because I know that he has. I have no idea what type of dressing he has chosen to put on this, because my garage is full of endless products. My kids don't always ask me, so they just reach for what's first available and they just slop it on their tires. So this is where I talk about the buildup. And notice all the endless ridges. This tire would be very problematic in dressing it. So this is where I'm going to spend the time to clean it first and scrub. And this is where water comes useful, because now I can truly rinse this off instead of just trying to wipe it down and clean it. But you can see that the super degreaser did do a fine job. And also another way to look at tire dressings is that it creates a what I call a sacrificial layer. So it creates a layer between the tire itself and the elements or dirt that stick to it, so that when you clean it away, it actually is clean again, if you in fact clean it each time. These grooves on the knobby off-road tires are problematic because they're so deep, and I'll show you a little trick. So based on your desired results, you can spend lots of time trying to detail out the dirt within this. For most professional detailers, that's unrealistic, especially if you pull back and realize that A, Johnny customer is likely going to get them dirty again. So you've got to find that winning balance. So a good trick is, and since I'm using Chemical Guys, they also make these aerosol dressings that are ideal for intricate detailed areas. So I can spray this on the knobby section itself, and then I can come through with the traditional tire dressing and dress the sidewall. That's dressed. Now it's time to apply the VRP. And I get it right on that lip, because I want that lip to get right in between the wheel and the tire sidewall itself without getting on the tire. And I just go over it like this. Now I have not used so much as to slop it inside these grooves. But still, these tires are problematic because it's got so many details to it. But you can see in the sunlight that this creates a nice shine, so you can allow it to set up and cure and dry and apply a repeat coating if you want it shinier. Or if that's too much shine for you, simply take a microfiber cloth and knock it down to the desired shine that you want. Just as a little comparison, I've got my Meguiar's hyper dressing here. So if there's any of you that have already purchased hyper dressing in the past, don't go into freak out mode. It's still a great product. It's just that after testing both of them extensively in the field, I've come to the conclusion that the VRP dries to the touch and sling is far less of a problem. The shine, if I had to compare the two, it would be hard to tell the difference between the shine level. This is a thinner consistency. I use it straight out of the sprayer just like this. Once again, I spray it onto the applicator and apply it in the same fashion. So there we are. You can see the hyper dressing does have a fabulous shine to it. Now, if you're looking for a true shine that is on steroids, you're going to have to go with a product like this. This happens to be Black Magic, which in my opinion makes some of the worst products in the world. I've tested enough of their waxes and dressings that totally unimpressed. But maybe you love them. It is a true retail product. I've never seen a professional detailer actually use Black Magic professionally. So what you need to look for, and they usually come in a clear formulation because they're loaded up with solvents and silicones that make them just hyper shiny. And you spray them directly onto the tire itself. There's lots of residue. You'll make a mess on your paint. You'll make a mess on the wheel. If you use it on a applicator sponge, when that because it's not water-based, it does not rinse off and clean off easily or at all. It barely cleans it off, and then your sponge gets crusty and hard, and it just makes it unusable the next time around.